أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ويل للمطففين الذين إذا اكتالوا على الناس يستوفون وإذا كالوهم أو وزنوهم يخسرون ألا يظن أولئك أنهم مبعوثون ليوم عظيم يوم يقوم الناس لرب العالمين. كلا إن كتاب الفجار لفي سجين وما أدراك ما سجين كتاب مرقوم. ويل يومئذ للمكذبين الذين يكذبون بيوم الدين وما يكذب به إلا كل معتد أثيم إذا تتلى عليه آياتنا قال أساطير الأولين. كلا بل ران على قلوبهم ما كانوا يكسبون. كلا إنهم عن ربهم يومئذ لمحجوبون ثم إنهم لصال الجحيم ثم يقال هذا الذي كنتم به تكذبون. كلا إن كتاب الأبرار لفي عليين وما أدراك ما عليون كتاب مرقوم يشهده المقربون إن الأبرار لفي نعيم على الأرائك ينظرون تعرف في وجوههم نضرة النعيم يسقون من رحيق مختوم ختامه مسك وفي ذلك فليتنافس المتنافسون. ومزاجه من تسنيم عينا يشرب بها المقربون إن الذين أجرموا كانوا من الذين آمنوا يضحكون وإذا مروا بهم يتغامزون وإذا انقلبوا إلى أهلهم انقلبوا فكهين وإذا رأوهم قالوا إن هؤلاء لضالون وما أرسلوا عليهم حافظين. فاليوم الذين آمنوا من الكفار يضحكون على الأرائك ينظرون هل ثوب الكفار ما كانوا يفعلون. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها والنفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بتقواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والآديات دبها فالموريات قدها فالمغيرات صبحا فأثرن به نقعا فوسطن به جمعا إن الإنسان لربه لكنود وإنه على ذلك لشهيد وإنه لحب الخير لشديد أفلا يعلم إذا بعثر ما في القبور وحصل ما في الصدور إن ربهم بهم يومئذ لخبير. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
پر محمد و آل محمد صلوات اللہ صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. ایسا لوٹا پھرنا بسا زہرا کا گھر اے کرب و بلا. ایسا لوٹا پھرنا بسا زہرا کا گھر اے کرب و بلا. دیکھ کر جسے میرے تک چھپے دیکھ کر جسے میرے تک چھپے میری دا کرے وائی فلک اسے. روح مصطفیٰ جان مرتضیٰ روح مصطفیٰ جان مرتضیٰ زہرا کا گھر اے کرب و بلا. ایسا لوٹا پھرنا بسا زہرا کا گھر اے کرب و بلا. گرد غم سے منہ سب اٹا ہوا گرد غم سے منہ سب اٹا ہوا دیکھ بائی کا سر کٹا ہوا. شیر شام میں ہو کے بیریدا شیر شام میں ہو کے بیریدا زہرا کا گھر اے کرب و بلا. ایسا لوٹا پھرنا بسا زہرا کا گھر اے کرب و بلا. سر پیشے نہیں مجتبی نہیں سر پیشے نہیں مجتبی نہیں مرتضیٰ نہیں مصطفیٰ نہیں. ہو کے بے نوا کیوں نہ پھر بلا ہو کے بے نوا کیوں نہ پھر بلا. زہرا کا گھر اے کرب و بلا. ایسا لوٹا پھرنا بسا زہرا کا گھر اے کرب و بلا. زلزلے میں ہو کیوں نہ نئی نوا زلزلے میں ہو کیوں نہ نئی نوا کیوں نہ پھر ہلے دشت کربلا. ہائے فوج کی چھین لے ردا ہائے فوج کی چھین لے ردا زہرا کا گھر اے کرب و بلا. ایسا لوٹا پھرنا بسا زہرا کا گھر اے کرب و بلا. दम छुटा हुआ दिल रुंधा हुआ, दम छुटा हुआ दिल रुंधा हुआ, घर लुटा हुआ सर खुला हुआ, चेहरे पे मले खाके करबला, चेहरे पे मले खाके करबला, जहरा का घर आए करबो बला, ऐसा लुटा फिर ना बसा, जहरा का घर आए करबो बला। अल-फातिहा मा सलवात अल्लाह वसल्ली अला मुहम्मदिन व आल।
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Respected scholar, my elders, brothers, sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Surah Fatiha is requested for all the names listed on the screen and Kul Marhamin Al-Fatiha. I am Yujibun is requested for all the names listed on the screen and whoever is in need of it here and elsewhere. Let us all recite it together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mustarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu su. Amma yujibul mustarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu su. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على خاتم النبيين وسيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين رسول رب العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما على الإمام المنتظر وحجة الله الثاني عشر ابن العسكري المنتظر، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم القرآن الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والذين جاهدوا فينا لنهدينهم سبلنا وإن الله مع المحسنين. صلوات. into the last night of my commitment in this series of lectures and into the night of the ziyarah of the shahadat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And I'm thankful to God for having given me this opportunity to be able to be in service and before you, the Mu'mineen and Mu'minat of the Husseini Islamic Center Orlando. And being the last lecture, it becomes important that we wind down completely with a summary and one or two things that remain to be highlighted before the entire topic is concluded is what we will embark upon. And so, without much ado, we will try to keep the majlis not fully lengthy, a little short, but let's see inshallah how things go. Before I commence for presenting before you what I intend to continue and finally wind up the discussion on the secrets and asrar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught to us by the Holy Ma'asumeen alayhim as-salam in order to procure and secure our success in this world and the hereafter. There is just one point I need to mention regarding one of the discussions that we had previously. And the reason that I want to say this is that, and reason I want to add this explanation is that I do not want people to be misconstruing or harboring an incorrect misconception about the topic, and so it becomes important I just clarify this aspect. And the clarification goes with respect to that 4-point program that I mentioned that the Holy Prophet explained and highlighted to his daughter Hazrat Fatima az-Zahra salawatullahi wa salamu alayha, and which eventually and subsequently comes to us through the Bible. And in the 4-point program, we had mentioned the 4 things that the Prophet had told the Bibi, that make sure you do these 4 things before going off to sleep. And the entire discussion, the details, the secrets, the asrar, all of them passed. However, the clarification that I want to add over here with respect to this is that let this explanation, when I said that the reason, the logic was that when a person goes to sleep, his soul goes for the mulaqat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Holy Prophet, in order to ornament our souls, in order to embellish our souls, in order to decorate our souls, so that the soul acquires a sort of a sense of a kind of purity and purification, so that when it goes to the presence of Allah, when we go to sleep, God is desirous and mushtaq of meeting our souls. And hence this 4-point program is a way of ornamenting our soul to be able to make it deserving and in a state so that God accepts the presence of our souls in His presence. However, people might be given to think that, oh, we have these 4 things, but where is? The Sheikh has not mentioned the concept of wudu before sleeping. All along from the times that we were children and we were child, our parents, our elders, our grandparents were telling us, before you go to sleep, you have to do wudu and go to sleep. But in this 4-point program that the Sheikh has said, which is used for ornamenting our souls, he's not mentioned about wudu. So what is that? Where does the wudu stand? Look, over here there are certain things there's one thing that we need to understand. There are certain things that are very clear and badihi. And they're so clear and they're so manifest that at times for a person like me to even mention those things would be tantamounting to insulting the intelligence and the knowledge and the ma'rifat of my audience. And so when certain things are very badihi, as bright and as visible and as manifest as the sun in the afternoon of a day, it becomes irrelevant for me, it becomes unnecessary for me to mention that out. And this is exactly in a similar situation that, for example, if you tell somebody to make a cup of tea for you, somebody tells a wife, or somebody tells, somebody from within the house, can you make a cup of tea? And then when that person is going to make a cup of tea, you add, make sure you use water to make the tea. And the person will turn back and say, hello, you're insulting my intelligence. I know in order to make tea, you need water. You don't have to say that to me. How else are you going to make a tea? How else am I going to make a tea? Or you tell somebody, make sure that you offer your prayers. Have you offered? You tell your children, have you offered your wajib prayers? Go and offer your wajib prayers. And as the person is going, the child is going to offer the prayers, you say, you know, wudu, you have to do one before the prayers. And the child would think, hello, I know, without wudu, salat cannot take place. The fact that you've told me to go and pray automatically means I have to do wudu. When you have asked me to make a cup of tea, automatically it means that water needs to be taken. And similarly, when we're talking about the ornamentation of a person's soul when he goes to sleep, what is plain, what is badihi, what is absolutely manifest and clear is the fact that one of the incontrovertible truths that has been recommended to us since the time we were children was the fact that before going to sleep we need to do wudu. Now, in order for me to state that the soul needs to be embellished and ornated, and then I still add you need to do wudu, it's a kind of a thing that I felt very irrelevant. There was no need. And hence the wudu was left out. But yes, without wudu, none of these parts, none of these aspects would take the soul to the level that the Holy Prophet wanted. So these things are required to ornament the soul so as to make it appropriate in its appearance, in its essence, to stand before the might of the Al-Quddus, God. Then it has to be purified and ornamented, and the ornamentation will only come when the soul is first purified with wudu. And that's the reason the wudu was absolutely felt unnecessary to be mentioned. So this is the clarification. Coming back to that topic, to that particular verse that we kept reciting every night, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا, that those who make an endeavor to come to us, we will guide them to our paths, we will guide them to our qurbat and our nearness and proximity. Why? وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ, because God is with the muhsaneen. Those who do good need to realize they're not alone. They've got somebody backing them up, somebody very powerful. Somebody has got the power of the entire universe at his disposal, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in order to understand this verse, I need to, and in a summary, I need to take you back to the first lecture that we spoke about, wherein we were discussing Malik al-Mulk. قُلْ اللَّهُمَّ مَالِكَ الْمُلْكِ, that you are the master of the kingdom, you're the master of the entire universe, you have control over everything. You give sleep, you give wakefulness, you give life, you give death, you give sustenance, you give rizq, you feed and you satiate our thirst, and you cure us, and you make us laugh, and you make us cry without your permission, implicit or explicit. None of these things can ever take place. Having understood that, it becomes very important to understand that for us, when we have an entity like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's got the entire control of the universe in his hands of power, it becomes extremely important that we are constantly connected to this individual, and we constantly seek this individual's guidance and help to navigate through the travails and the pitfalls of this world, so that we are successful in this world and the hereafter. There is no way, with that entity having that kind of control and power and a say in every single thing that you and me and I do in this universe, there is no way that we can afford to get disconnected from him. And that is the reason Quran says, this is the reason Islam says, every day you have to stand up 5 times before God and 10 times say, Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Keep us on the right path. Keep us on the right path. Keep us on the right path. Because the entire qudrat of guidance comes from you. If you put us onto the right path and then turn away from us and leave us to ourselves, we will not be able to remain on the right path. The only way we will remain on the right path is when you continue to guide us, you continue to support us, you continue to use your power to guide us through all the pitfalls of this world. And that is the reason you find that incident when Salama, the wife of the Holy Prophet, once, and you know, the Holy Prophet had several wives, as a result of which he would distribute the nights equally between all his wives. This particular night was the turn of the Holy Prophet to spend with Salama. Now you do realize the wives of the Holy Prophet had their houses. These houses were on the periphery of Masjid al-Nabi. So in the periphery of Masjid al-Nabi, there were houses of each of the prophets, of each of the wives of the Prophet. And the Prophet would move into each of the houses every day, every night to pass time with them on an equal basis. This night was coincidentally the night for the Holy Prophet to spend time with Salama. Now Salama is narrating this hadith. He's saying in the darkness, in the middle of the night, somehow I happened to get up. Something happened, my sleep broke off. And I got up. I got up to look next to me, found the Holy Prophet not beside me. He said, for a fleeting moment in my heart passed a thought that passes through the hearts of a woman. Meaning, he says, for a brief moment, for a fleeting moment, it happened to come to me in my mind. Has the Holy Prophet left me and gone to another of his wives? I just brushed aside the thought and I said, probably let me look around in the other rooms. So she said she gets up from the bed, starts looking around into the other rooms till she reaches a room. What does she see? She sees the Holy Prophet in the state of sajda and reciting a dua. And she could make out from the distance that that dua is such that he's repeatedly reciting it, continuously reiterating it. So Miss Alma says, I go near to listen to what he says, and ajab. What does she see? She sees the Holy Prophet repeatedly saying, Allahumma la taqilni ala nafsi tarfat aynin abada. Oh my Lord, do not leave me to myself, even in the measure of the blink of an eye, ever. According to some traditions, the Holy Prophet repeated this sentence 70 times. God, do not leave me. You realize what's been happening, yeah? This is the Habib of God. This is the Mahbub of God. This is the best of the creation of God. This is that God this is that individual for whom God has said, لَوْلَاكَ لَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْأَفْلَاقَ. Oh Muhammad, if it was not for you, I would have not created the entire creation. All of this creation is out of my mahabbat for you. Yet, despite this, the Holy Prophet is pleading in the darkness of the night, in the state of sajda, 70 times, Allahumma la taqalni ala nafsi tarfat aynin abada. Do not abandon me. Do not leave me to myself. I continuously want to be under your dependence. I continuously want to be under your tutelage. I continuously want to be under your mastership. Do not leave me on my own. Tarfat aynin, even in the measure of the blink of an eye, abada, ever. Now this surprised Salma so much that when the Holy Prophet raises, she has a certain question out of incredulousness, and the Holy Prophet answers that that's beyond our question. The question is that this mighty power of God is so profoundly affecting our lives that we cannot do with the help and the guidance on a moment by moment, nanosecond by nanosecond basis without the help of and the guidance of this entity. We will be prone to be hurtling towards annihilation and disintegration in the hereafter. And this is what was mentioned by God to Musa. You know that incident? Hadrat Musa, Kalimullah, going to Kuh Thur to have his communication and conversation with God as per the time decided. And as he's passing by, he meets one of the members of Bani Israel. An affluent person, an arrogant person, a laubali person, no religious inclinations, no religiosity, in his affluence and his power and his influence, in complete intoxication and inebriation. And as Musa is going, he says, when Musa, where are you going? He says, I'm going to my communication with God. He says, you're going to talk to your God, tell your God. It's been decades that I have not fallen sick. I do as I please. I do what I want to do. And in all these years that I'm doing as and how I want to do and as I want to behave, I've not been hurt and afflicted by even so much so as a headache. Nor do I bow down before anybody. Nor do I worship anybody. I am my own man's man. Go tell your God this. Just a jur'at and jasarat and audaciousness and audacity was good enough for that man to talk to Hadrat Musa. But he said, go and tell your God, I care two hoots. I do as I please, and I have been doing it, and I will continue to do so. Hadrat Musa looks at him out of absolute flabbergastness. What do you say to such a person? He goes to his communication with Hadrat, with the Holy Prophet. As he goes, he has a talk and he's about to turn back. Allah says, Musa, hold on. Hazrat Musa waits. Says, you have to pass a message to me from one of my creation. Hazrat Musa was not wanting this to come. He did not want this issue to come. How could he tell God there is this creation of God who is such an insignificant creation? He wants to act and stand up in opposition to you. He says, Ya Rabbi, yes, there is a conversation. I've been asked to give a message. He says, why haven't you given it to me, Ya Musa? He says, I just couldn't get myself to. It was okay for him to tell this to me, to communicate to you. But I know you to the level of my ability. It's not something that I can bring it out of my tongue, bring it out of my mouth. Allah says, Musa, I understand. I don't need you to tell me. I know what he said. Go and tell him this sentence from me. Tell him it is enough and suffices for you in wretchedness and for being a wretched individual that God has left you to your own self. God has left you to your own self. This enough is sufficient for your absolute wretchedness in the life that is coming to you. We can't let God leave us. We can't stay away from God. We cannot get disconnected from God, because that would mean complete wretchedness. Shaqawat fi dunya wal akhirah. So having understood that we need them, how we need to invoke God is now what is coming next. See, there's a scholar in ancient times by the name of Sayyid Ali Khan Madani Shirazi. Sayyid Ali Khan Madani Shirazi, popularly known as Sayyid Ali Khan Kabir. See, a lot of jewels amongst the ulama are hidden from us. We don't know about them. And it's in these lectures and majalis that efforts are made to pull out these hidden jewels and bring them before the people, so that the people know what ihsan these ulama have done for Islam. One of the jewels hidden, not known by the people, how many of us have heard about it? Said Ali Khan Madani Shirazi, Sayyid Ali Khan Kabir, how many people have heard? This man was a faqih. This man was an arif. This man was a hakim. And he was more into akhlaq, du'as, irfan, like that extreme arif Sayyid Ali ibn Taus. Sayyid Ali ibn Taus, ajib shakhsiyat. He was in the same route of du'as, akhlaqiyat, irfan, spirituality, ruhaniyat with respect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ajib individual this man was. A jewel hidden. He's got numerous books to his credit. One of his books is a sharh, is an interpretation, is an explanation of Sahifa Sajjadiyah by the name of Riyadus Salikin. Riyadus Salikin is written by Sayyid Ali Khan Madani Shirazi as a sharh, as an interpretation, as an explanation on Sahifa Sajjadiyah. Now, over the course of time, numerous scholars have written sharh and commentaries and interpretations and explanations. Numerous books have been written on Sahifa Sajjadiyah. But all the books that have been written, numerous, into hundreds, none can reach the level of Riyadus Salikin written by Sayyid Ali Khan Kabir. This was the personality of the man. This Sayyid Ali Khan Kabir, Sayyid Ali Khan Madani Shirazi, he's got a very small booklet. I'm leading you to somewhere. He's got a small booklet he's written. And the name of this booklet is Al-Kalimut Tayyib. Al-Kalimut Tayyib. Pure sentences, pure words. A 40 page small booklet on du'as. Remember I said he was more into du'as and spirituality and connection and munajat with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Irfan. In this book, Al-Kalimut Tayyib, he's narrating a tradition about an individual by the name of Abul Wafa. This Abul Wafa lived in the region of Kirman in Iran. So somehow he fell foul of the ruler of that time, as a result of which infuriated, The ruler, you know how rulers are intoxicated with power. Anything that does not go according to their liking, it's either death or imprisonment. He issued orders, catch up this Abu Wafa, put him into prison before I take, until I take a decision on what needs to be done. Now Abu Wafa is narrating this, what is happening with him. Brought by Sayyid Ali Khan Madani Shirazi in his book Al-Kalim Al-Tayyib. This Abu Wafa is saying, I was picked up and I realized the infuriation of the Hakim. He put me into prison and I was dead sure. This man is gonna issue an instruction, a hukum to have me killed, beheaded. I'm gonna die. So in the prison, I was convinced. The conviction was that anytime the ruling will come from him, just kill this fellow. Says inside the prison, I started praying. Inside the prison, I started doing tawassul. To whom? To Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam. So I turned to Amir al-Mu'mineen, tawassul, 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 oh Amir al-Mu'mineen. O Mushkil Kusha, O Nadi Ali, Fulan, 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 Fulan. I kept praying and I kept praying. Several days, no response. And every day that would pass, my fear would increase that any time I'm gonna receive a visit from the prison warden stating your time has come. And I kept doing tawassul and nothing happened. I was not released. Till out of frustration, a thought crossed into my mind for a short period. Since I've been calling Amir al-Mu'mineen for such a long time. I've been calling Ali ibn Abi Talib, doing his tawassul and seeking his help for such a long time, but he's not come. And then a very inappropriate thought crossed my mind. Out of frustration and desperation, I thought, look, I've been calling him and he's not coming. If Ali ibn Abi Talib could have helped me, would he not have helped his wife Fatima al-Zahra when she was being subjected to that torture by those individuals in the immediate aftermath of the death of the Holy Prophet? If he was able to help, would he not have saved the life of his wife? I said, this thought crossed my mind that if he could have helped her. But he did not help her, and I'm not sure whether he will be able to help me. Very inappropriate for a Shia to think. But the desperation and frustration led him to think that way. He says, I thought about that, and that night I go to sleep. As I go to sleep, and in my dreams I see the wujud and the entity, the holy entity of Rasul Khuda before me. Rasul Khuda comes to me in my dreams and says, Ya Abul Wafa, you've not been fair to Ali ibn Abi Talib. The thought that you thought about Ali ibn Abi Talib is not fair, it was totally inappropriate. Because not that Ali did not have the power to help Fatima, and not that Ali does not have the power to help you. But over there, Ali was ordained, he was under instructions to exhibit sabr and not exhibit his power so that Islam could be saved. Had Ali wanted, he would have changed the entire scenario. But he was under instructions of God through me to not react with violence and with aggression, but to take care of the situation by means of sabr, however stingy, however stinging and hurtful it may be. But listen, Abu Wafa, let me tell you, and this hadith becomes very important for us, because now the Holy Prophet is saying, says, Abu Wafa, having understood that what you've thought about Ali was very inappropriate, and having clarified that, let me explain to you something. All our 14 Masumeen, while having the powers of the universe granted to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, each one of us have been given a special domain, a specific domain to take care of. And if you want us to help you, you need to look at the domain in which you are in and do the tawassul and seek the help of that particular imam or a masoom who's associated with that particular domain for an immediate recovery. Because everyone has been given a specific task. Then, for example, and he goes with all of them. He says, this is my duty. If you have this problem, come to me, come to me. If you have this problem. So one of the things I'm saying, because just to know, he says, if somebody is sick, look, it might break a lot of misconceptions in our mind, or a lot of traditional norms. The Prophet is telling Abu Wafa, if somebody is sick, the cure of the sick is placed under the under the powers of my grandson, Musa ibn Jafar al-Qadim alayhi salam. Somebody is sick and he wants to get cured. He needs to seek the tawassul of the seventh Imam, Imam Qadim alayhi salam, for him to be cured early. Somebody is suffering from mental anxiety. Somebody is suffering from mental stress. Somebody is suffering from some sort of depression. Somebody is overcome by stress of certain nature, of whatever relationship, for economic, domestic, health, or whatever. If somebody is undergoing mental stress, mental challenges, the person that he needs to turn to is the eighth Imam, Ali ibn Musa al-Rada, alayhi salatu wassalam. Says, yeah, Abu Wafa, somebody is having a problem with finance. He needs to sort out his financial affairs. He can turn to any of us. But solving the financial affairs of the Shiites is the task that has been entrusted to the ninth Imam, Imam Jawad alayhi salam. And in this tradition, he mentions that the entire specific domain, that is the specific domain of influence. Not that the other domains are being influenced by the Imam, but this has been specific task and mission given to that Masoom. From the Holy Prophet till the 11th Imam, he keeps counting out and recounting this problem. This is the individual you need to do tawassul to. This is the issue. This is the individual you need to do tawassul to. Till he comes to the 12th Imam. Then in the dream, the Holy Prophet is telling Abu Wafa that when everything fails and you find that the situation has come up to here, he points out, that means now it's matter of life and death. When it comes up to here, now you have no option. The only person you should call is Ya Sahib al-Zaman Adrikni. Turn to the Imam of your time. If things come to such an extent that there's a sword hanging on your head, a situation comes when there is a matter of life and death, there's nothing remaining. Then at that point of time, you need to turn to the Imam of your time. Ya Sahib al-Zaman Adrikni. The 12th Imam of your time, Abu Wafa. Abu Wafa says the Holy Prophet, and he goes on with all the 14 Ma'asumeen. Who? The Holy Prophet. We don't have time, we're not mentioning. We just mentioned 3, rest some other time. Abu Wafa says, the Holy Prophet mentions this prescription to me, and then this goes away. And having noted the prescription, in my dreams, I call out, Ya Mawlaya, Ya Sahib al-Zaman Adrikni, loudly. And the loud voice that I said caused me to come out of my sleep. In my dreams, I shouted. It came out in reality, and the sound of my shout, calling out Imam al-Zamana, came into my ears. I get up from sleep. I wake up my sleep. I'm just thinking, what has happened? Is this correct? Is this a true dream? All of a sudden, I'm hearing footsteps coming. Footsteps coming. Within a short while after getting up, footsteps. They come to my door, the door opens, and I'm thinking, done. This is now the hukum of the hakim for my execution. Surprise, surprise. The warden comes and says, I don't know what has happened, my friend, but the hakim has pardoned you. You're free to go. You're a free man. Ya Sahib al-Zaman Adrikni. So you realize what is happening. We have been given an individual in whose imamat we are currently living in. And we've been told, when we find ourselves into a situation where there is no light at the end of the tunnel, then the only person who can light up that light is the entity of Imam al-Zamana Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajuhu Sharif for us. But bishartiha wa shurutiha. Bishartiha wa shurutiha. If we want to call Imam al-Zamana for our help, if we want him to come and help us, then we need to be careful of 2 things. Very quickly, we want to shorten this majlis. We've had our passions overflowing. Rose on the day of Ashura, on Sham-e Ghariba, the crescendo reached. It's now flowed out. Ziyarat majlis, we need to keep it short, finalizing everything, and then we take your leave. Says, if we want to call Imam al-Zamana as per the prescriptions and as per the advice and the counsel of the Holy Prophet, then we have to be careful that if we are calling Imam al-Zamana for our help, for seeking help, for him to help us, we need to be careful about 2 things. We need to be following 2 things. If these 2 things are followed, then the Imam comes to our help. And the Imam comes to our help. If we are at this point of the situation, then we will end up in the same way as Abu Wafa ends out. Free and pardoned to go into the world. with all problems taken away. What are those two things? Point number one. If we need to call Imam Zamana to help us, if we need Imam Zamana to help us, first and foremost, we need to make sure that the person whom we want to help us, we are not inconveniencing him. We are not troubling him. We are not putting him into discomfort. But is it possible for us not even seeing the Imam, not even meeting the Imam, without us being in the presence of the Imam, or Imam gracing us with his presence? Is it also possible that we can inconvenience him? Yes. How? By committing sins. Riwayat tell us every sin a Shia commits, it's like a dagger that goes through the body of Imam Zamana, inflicting unlimited pain into the wujud al-Mubarak of Imam Zamana alayhi salam. Every foul word we utter, every wrong thing that we do, every disobedience of God that we do, every music that we hear, every time we go out of the house without hijab, every time we pick up the razor to shave our beard, every time we do one of these sins or any of these sins, it is like we are putting a dagger into the body of Imam Zamana, inflicting pain and hurt to the Imam. You want to call this individual to your help. It doesn't help by trying to inconvenience him by committing sins. So the first thing that needs to be done is that sins need to be forgiven, need to be avoided. Because if we want to call somebody, you can't hurt somebody and then expect him to help us. Although this is a family of Quraman. But in normal practice, you want somebody's help, you fawn over that individual. You flatter that individual. You put butter over him. You don't hurt him, because you hurt and trouble an individual and then go to him for help. You will say, hello, sorry, I know you need help. I know I can help you, but I've not forgotten what you've done to me. Please step out, Khuda Hafiz. That's it. If we want to call Imam Zamana, we need to make sure we don't hurt him. Riwayat says our sins hurt Imam Zamana. We need to stop sinning and disobeying God so that our Imam Zamana is not inconvenienced by us, whom we call ourselves the Shiites and the Muhibbeen of Imam Zamana alayhi salam. It's point number one. Point number two is that if we want Imam Zamana to help us, we need to call out to him. We need to ask him to come. Remember in the battle of Khaybar, when the Holy Prophet wanted Ali to help him, what did he say? Nadi Ali madhar. Come Ali, I need your help. You need to call. If you need somebody to help, you need to call him. Ya Abul Fadl. Ya Abul Fadl. You need to call out. We need to call out Imam Zamana if we want him to come to our help. How do we call out? There are numerous du'as, numerous ziyarats, but one of the most effective, and one of the most very easily available to all of us is that amal which is referred to as the istighatha of Imam Zamana, which has been taught to us by the Ma'sumin alayhim salam. Even in Mafatihul Janan. In Mafatihul Janan, when you pick up, there are several chapters that Mafatihul Janan is. I'm telling you exactly the location of where you can find this istighatha. Istighatha means to seek help from ghawth. Remember in Dua Joshne Kabir, Al-Ghawth, Al-Ghawth, Khallisna min al-nar ya Rab. Al-Ghawth, oh help. Al-Ghawth, oh help. Or Al-Ghawth is also the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the titles, one of the names. Oh Allah, Khallisna, deliver us min al-nar. Khallisna min al-nar ya Rab. Oh my Lord, oh my Rabb. Khallisna, deliver us, grant us salvation from the fire of hell. Istighatha is to seek help. It is referred to as Salatul Istighatha lil Hujjah. The Salat of Istighatha, the Salat of seeking help from Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Askari, Ajjalallahu ta'ala, Farajahu Sharif. Where can you find it? In Mafatihul Janan. Mafatihul Janan has several chapters. The entire book has been divided into several chapters. Chapter number 8 is the chapter that deals with that Al-Munajatul Khamsata Ashar of Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, the 15 whispered prayers You can get the translation on the internet. Referred to as the Al-Munajat, whispered prayers, Al-Khamsata Ashar, 15 whispered prayers. That is there in chapter number 8. Before chapter number 8 in Mafatihul Jinan is chapter number 7, which talks about part 2 of the du'as, various du'as. The last dua that is just before, the last dua of chapter 7, which is just before chapter number 8, is the Hirs of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. The dua of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam for two purposes. One, for hajat, somebody wants a hajat. A dua of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam to get one's hajat. Walil khawf, somebody's fearing, apprehensive of something, fearful of something. For that thing to end well, this dua of Imam Sadiq. The dua previous to this of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, that means almost the second last dua of chapter 7 of Mafatihul Jinan, is the istighatha of Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. And how is it to be done? Look, you want to call, you want Imam to help you. So the first thing you do is you don't hurt him, you don't inconvenience him. And after having done that, now you want to call him, you want to plead, Imam, come to my help. There is one way of saying, Imam, we need your help. Fair enough, good, Imam hears it. But then you also need to follow certain protocols that the Masumin have said. Says, you really want the Imam to listen to you and come to you, I'll give you a better way to do it. Istighatha of Imam al-Zaman. And how does it work? In Mafatihul Jinan, the second last section of chapter number 7 in Mafatih, and it goes like this. You need to recite 2 rakat namaz with the niyat of istighatha of Imam al-Zaman. And the good time for this is Shab-e Jummah. Can be done any time, but more specifically in Shab-e Jummah. And when in Shab-e Jummah in the night, how it starts off with offering 2 rakat namaz. Just like morning prayers. But the niyat is, I'm doing this for seeking the help of Imam al-Zaman. If you can use the word, I'm doing this for istighatha of Imam al-Zaman. If you can use the word istighatha, fair, use it. 2 rakat namaz like surah Alhamd in the first rakat, any surah of Ruku, Sajda, get up. Alhamd in the second rakat, any surah. Ruku, Sajda, and finish off. After the 2 rakat, you need to come out into the open, under the open skies. And then this dua that needs to be recited, the dua of istighatha. That was the salat that needs to be recited. After the salat of istighatha comes the dua. And it starts off like this. Salamullahil kamilul tam, ash-shamilul am, wa salawatuhu da'ima, wa barakatuhul kamil. And it goes on, goes on, goes on. Ajab, this istighatha is. You recite this, and Sayyid Ali Khan Madani Shirazi says, once this dua is, the salat is recited, the istighatha is recited, now seek your hajat from Imam al-Zaman. Basically, you're telling Imam al-Zaman, I'm having this problem, please come to my help, this is my problem. And the ulama say, recite this istighatha of Imam al-Zaman and see how the problem goes away. Why will it go away? Because this is the recommendation of the Holy Prophet given to Abul Wafa in his dreams when he was at a stage when this was the issue of his life and death. These are those mysteries that we've been talking about. These are those mysteries of the universe that hitherto were unknown to us. But they only come to us through those individuals who are ar-rasikhuna fil ilm, who are submerged in the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the problem is this, that while God understands the rank, the ummah does not understand the rank. The angels will understand the rank. The animals will understand the rank. The birds flying, the fish in the seas, and the animals in the jungle, and the sand under the foot, under the feet, and the skies over the head. All of them understand the rank. Unfortunately, the humans and the ummah of the Holy Prophet did not understand the rank. Till it reaches a stage when you have an event of Karbala taking place, when the Hujjat of God upon the earth, Hussein ibn Ali is mercilessly and is massacred on the plains of Karbala. But while Karbala was the conclusion of the Masa'ib of Hussein and his companions, it was also the beginning of a new phase of the Masa'ib and the Musibah for Hadrat Zainab and Imam Sajjad alayhim as-salatu was-salam. You imagine the state of Imam Sajjad. You imagine the state of Imam Sajjad. In front of his eyes, he's seeing the severed head of his father raised over the lance, over the spear. What could have gone in his mind? You tell me. The Riwayat says he was 24, 25 at that time. What goes through his mind? You tell me. After the incident of Karbala, when the entire family has been massacred and killed, on the third day, the Qafla has gone. Out of the fear of the forces of Yazid and the power that his army wielded, the neighboring tribes were very hesitant and fearful to come down into Karbala to see what was the situation. On the third day, the people of the tribe of Bani al-Asad decided it's time to see the situation. And when they come to the battlefield of Karbala, the sight that meets their eyes break their hearts. The shuhada of the ashab of Hussein ibn Ali, the shuhada of the Bani Hashim of Hussein ibn Ali, all lying. But the amazing thing was that now was the time, they said, they looked around, the people, the forces of Yazid had either buried the people who had died, or they had carried away their deceased, all of whom were finnar. Either they had buried their deceased finnar, in the fire of hell, or they had taken away into their own qabila to be buried in their own qabila, again finnar. Those who stand up against Hussein ibn Ali and are killed, there is no place for them except the fire of hell. Hum fiha khalidun. But as now they come, the Bani al-Asad, they see the bodies strewn over. Said, all right, let's do something. Let's gather together and make sure that we bury them. The point comes, how do you bury and whom do you bury? Because now when they go, they decided, okay, let's bury, because now the forces of Yazid have gone. We are not fearful of our lives, but let's now see how to bury them. A problem came for them. How do we know whose body is whose? Because the clothes were taken away, the head was severed, no forms of identification, whose body belongs to which personality. Now all of them standing dumbfounded, all of them standing, stunned. How do we bury? We've got an individual over here, Hussein ibn Ali, who needs to be accorded the appropriate respect. We've got individual who's Abbas. We've got individuals who's Akbar and Qasim. We need to know who these bodies are so that we can accord appropriate respect. Right now, all the bodies look similar to us. How do we know whose body is whose? They say, okay, let's do one thing. Because we cannot identify each body, let's make one big, large qabr and put all the bodies inside and cover it up together. Said, all right, that looks the best option. As they were about to embark, in the distance, they see a rider coming towards them. Coming very quickly, riding. Coming quickly, very riding towards them. As he comes to a distance, when they can hear, he said, hold on, don't bury anybody. Don't bury anybody. I'm here to help you. The person who was coming then gets off the horse, but they see that as he's getting off the horse, he's in a state where there are chains on his hands and there are chains on his legs. All of a sudden, with one inclination, they saw the chains of the hands open and the chains on the legs drop aside. He moves forward and he says, why are you all waiting? He says, we want to bury these entire shuhada, but we don't know whose body is whose, so we don't know what to do. He says, what have you planned out? He says, we've planned out to make one massive grave and put everybody inside, something like Ganja Shahida that we've got. He says, no, you cannot do that. I will tell you whose body each one is. He goes to one body and says, this is the body. This is the body of the son of Hassan Qasim. They turn to him and say, but how do you know this is the body of Hassan, the body of the orphan of Imam Hassan? He says, can you not see the bones powdered? This is because of the horses that trampled the body of Hussein, of Qasim while he was still alive. This is the body of Qasim. He moves further. He says, you see these two bodies lying. These are the bodies of Owner Muhammad. So how do you know that they are Owner Muhammad? He says, can you not see the small little bodies, 10 years and 11 years together? These are the sons of Zainab Kubra. He goes to one body and stands over it and begins to weep profusely. They say, now whose body is this? He turns to them and says, don't you know whose body this is? This person who had come turns to them and says, don't you see whose body this is? Can you not see the injury of the spear on his chest? This is the body of Ali ibn al-Hussein, Ali Akbar. At one point of time, he goes to a body without a head, sits down, puts his hand upon his head and begins to weep. Oh, my father! Begins to weep, oh my father. They turn to him and say, but who is this? Why are you crying so much over him? He turns to them and says, do you not see this is the body of Hussein ibn Ali? When they hear this, they say, but why did you call him, oh my father, who are you? He turns to them and says, I am the son of Hussein ibn Ali, Zainul Abidin. Everybody stunned. Zainul Abidin by Ijaz left Kufa to bury his father in the grave. As all the graves were being made, a grave for Hussein ibn Ali, exactly where the grave stands today, is dug up. Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam says, I will put my father into the grave. As I go inside, nobody comes to me. I will be going myself. Imam Sajjad goes down, takes the body of his father, takes it into the grave. Everybody move back. They're all waiting for Imam. Probably he's reciting du'as. Probably he's weeping. They wait for him and wait for him, expecting Imam Sajjad to come out. But Imam Sajjad does not come out. For a long time, Imam Sajjad does not come out. They look amongst themselves, the Bani al-Asad, and they talk. They are fearful. Hope everything is well with Imam Sajjad. I hope everything is well with Imam Sajjad. 2 or 3 people say, let us see and find out if he is okay. They go to the qabr and they look down. As they look down, what do they see? They see our Mawla Sajjad bending over with his mouth onto the place where the cut veins of the neck of Hussein ibn Ali was there, and kissing the veins. Oh my father, how so much I would have liked to put my cheeks upon your cheek, just as you had put your cheek upon Ali Akbar. I wish I could do that, but you do not have a head. The least I can do is to kiss the severed veins on your head. Oh my father, such madlumiyat, killed in such a horrific manner. 3 days of thirst, no one to give water. Wa musibata, wa Husseina, wa madluma.
Hey, hey, Zainab, hey, hey, Sham, hey, hey, Sham, hey, hey, Zainab, hey, hey, Sham. बेवारिसी हो या बेरिदाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा. ज़ैनब का तुझसे वादा है भाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा. ज़ैनब का तुझसे वादा है भाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा. ज़ैनब का तुझसे वादा है भाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा. बेवारिसी हो या बेरिदाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा. ज़ैनब का तुझसे वादा है भाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा. ज़ैनब का तुझसे वादा है भाई, दुनिया में तेरा मातम रहेगा. पैगाम तेरा मिटने न दूंगी, प्यासी रहूंगी, पैदल चलूंगी. पैगाम तेरा मिटने न दूंगी, प्यासी रहूंगी, पैदल चलूंगी. پیاسی رہوں گی پیدل چلوں گی لڑتی رہوں گی تنہا لڑائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا پرچم اٹھا کر غازی کا اپنے پورے کروں گی میں تیرے وعدے پرچم اٹھا کر غازی کا اپنے پورے کروں گی میں تیرے وعدے پورے کروں گی میں تیرے وعدے بابا کریں گے مشکل کشائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا بیٹوں کا ماتم اس دن کروں گی چہلم تمہارا جب کر چکوں گی بیٹوں کا ماتم اس دن کروں گی چہلم تمہارا جب کر چکوں گی چہلم تمہارا جب کر چکوں گی میں نے یہی ہے منت اٹھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا چادر کے بدلے سر لوں گی اس کا مجلس کی خاطر گھر لوں گی اس کا چادر کے بدلے سر لوں گی اس کا مجلس کی خاطر گھر لوں گی اس کا مجلس کی خاطر گھر لوں گی اس کا نسل یزیدی دے گی دہائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا ہر گھر میں ہوگا اب تیرا ماتم ہر روز ہوگا مثل محرم ہر گھر میں ہوگا اب تیرا ماتم ہر روز ہوگا مثل محرم ہر روز ہوگا مثل محرم دیکھے گی اب تو ساری خدائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا تابوت تیرا غازی کا پرچم اٹھتے رہیں گے دنیا میں ہر دم تابوت تیرا غازی کا پرچم اٹھتے رہیں گے دنیا میں ہر دم اٹھتے رہیں گے دنیا میں ہر دم میں نے قسم ہے زہرا کی کھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا زینب کا تجھ سے وعدہ ہے بھائی دنیا میں تیرا ماتم رہے گا محمد صلی اللہ
السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعل الله الآخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. أجل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك، وجعلنا من أنصارك جميعا، ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.